Good evening, and you're very welcome to episode 4 of this season of the Rugby Show here on finalwhistle.ie with myself, Breifne Earley, and of course, once again, joined by AIL expert Ciaron Noble. Ciaron, another week, another round of games. Exciting times for the AIL.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about being called an expert every week, but if you call me that, I suppose.
Take the compliment. Take the compliment. We're going to take a quick look. Obviously, just a break week for the AIL last weekend, so not a whole pile to talk about in terms of men's games, at least in the last 7 days. But 2 weeks ago, we did have a full round of games. We might start there. We'll talk about the women's games at the weekend later on in the program. But first of all, let's maybe take a look at the Division 1A fixtures from 2 weekends ago now, and how that went down in terms of the performances across the board. There was some pretty big games and some pretty interesting results as well thrown up in the last round of men's games.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting because obviously that was the end of block one, as you call it, so the first 3 games. So there's still 3 unbeaten teams in Ciaron, Clontarf and Trinity. And I suppose the big news, though, from the first 3 games is Lansdowne. Many people's pick, one of the biggest clubs in Ireland, still haven't won a game, which is quite surprising, that they haven't registered a win yet. Trinity, they had a huge game against Trinity 2 weeks ago, and Trinity managed to pull it out of the bag and beat them. And they also managed to beat them without them getting the losing bonus point, which could prove massive, later on in the season. But Trinity looked really good. But I was actually watching the video of the match afterwards, and what they seem to be doing really well this year is they're scoring physically up front tries, crashing over the line, whereas that's not something you'd really associate with them in times gone by. They like to play at speed, they like to play out wide, kind of the classic student rugby, They like to play with a bit of flash, but they've become really tough, I think, and really compact, and they're a really good, solid team. They play Ballynahinch this weekend, which is a massive game, because Ballynahinch went into the last round unbeaten, but then they got stopped in their traps, in their tracks, I suppose, against Clontarf, who are the champions, and they haven't lost a game, Clontarf, since last November, which is crazy when you think about it in the league. Like, it's almost 12 months. It's coming up to 12 months next week. So for Ballynahinch, I suppose they'll be looking to bounce back straight away and get a win against Trinity. And, people are getting excited about Ballynahinch, their first 2 rounds, their wins against Shannon in round 2 and Lansdowne in round 1. But I think this next block of fixtures will really tell us how good they actually are and how far they can actually go this season. So it'll be interesting to see from them. In terms of Clontarf and Ciaron, they look like nothing's perfect, but they look near too perfect. They haven't shown any cracks either side. Ciaron are so exciting to watch. I think they have a plus 84 points difference this season so far. They're scoring tries for fun. The way they're playing, it's really enjoyable to watch. And then Clontarf are a bit more, they're different. They're not exactly as exciting to watch, but they get the job done and they're very effective. Dylan Donnellan is continuing where he left off, scoring tries for fun. Mainly a good El Maul try, but Clontarf look really, really strong. Cormac Daly's playing really well for them. He was 1A player of the year last year, and he's playing really well again this year. And obviously, with the Emerging Ireland tour now over, some guys will come back into the fold. I suspect Ben Murphy might get to play for them a bit now. He transferred from Old Wesley, so it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see, actually, ever since he joined Clontarf, I've kind of been wondering, will he get the nod ahead of Angus Lloyd, who's been at Clontarf for years? Or will he have to kind of sit on the bench and work his way into the team? So I'm quite interested to see how that plays out. But yeah, Clontarf and Ciaron, they were in the final last year, and I suppose they set the standard, both of them, and they're doing it again. And I'm already really excited for when they meet later in the league campaign.
Can Trinity survive and hold on to where they are at the moment in that top 3? Will we see a real challenge from them as well?
Yeah, no, I think Trinity, look at them last year. I think they were 2 points off the playoffs come the end of the season. They were really unlucky. And I think what made the difference for them last season is their start wasn't as good. I think they lost 2 of their 3 opening games, whereas now they've won 3 out of 3, and it's a massive difference. I think they've got some really good players in this year. Paddy McCarthy, I mention him nearly every week, but I think he's going to play for Ireland, to be honest. He was with Blackrock College last season in the Schools Cup. Fantastic player. Then they've got Max Dunn, Jack Dunn's younger brother, who played for Leinster. Thomas Clarkson is back in the fold now as well from the Emerging Ireland Tour. Fantastic prop. So they've got a really good team. Aaron Egan, their out half, is the top point scorer, I think, in the so far this season in 1A. He's a fantastic player, really, really good. So I think Trinity will definitely be in the top 4. It is too early to tell. We're only 3 games in, but I think, they didn't make it last year, and that's obviously added to their hunger to make it this year.
Of course, Shannon, we talked to them early on in the season. Yourself and Luke had a long chat with their director of rugby at the time. They're finding life a little bit of a challenge somewhat in the top division. 0 points on the board, not even a losing bonus point at this stage, only managing 32 points in their opening 3 games. Is it time for them to be worried?
I don't know. I watched some of the video of their game against Cork Con, and they were actually in the lead, I think, at half-time. 21-12, maybe, I think it was. They look good, They have Ethan Colgan, the scrum half, Munster player. I just don't know what it is, whether they play well for periods of the game. From all the reports that I've read, obviously I haven't seen them this year, personally, but from the reports I've read and the videos I've watched, they look good for periods of the game, but something seems to go wrong at the wrong point. It's not that they're playing bad, it's just it's not really clicking for them. Unfortunately for them this week, it's not going to get any easier because they're going to the champions, Clontarf. It'll be hard for them to get a point there the way Clontarf are playing. But I don't know, you look at Shannon and you say they have no points, but 3 other teams haven't registered a win either. So I suppose from their point of view, they have to look at that as well and say, look, we're not the only ones here who haven't won a game. Okay, it's not great that they don't have any losing bonus points, but for Shannon, they just have to take it week in, week out. They can't really think too far ahead into the future, if you get me. They just have to take it one game at a time. And I wouldn't be massively worried for them at this point because I don't know if it would have surprised them. I think they knew that it was going to be tough coming up because I think last time they came up from 1B, it was very tough as well. So I think they would have been prepared for this. It's not saying they wanted it to happen. They probably wanted a better start, but look, they didn't get it. So I think they just have to take it week in, week out. And they've got some great players there who are very experienced, the likes of Kelvin Brown, Lee Nicholas, who can really help them. I think they're going to be in a relegation fight? Probably, but I don't think they're really going to be thinking about that at the moment. They'll just be focusing on getting that first win and improving their performances.
You kind of answer my next question anyway, but I'm going to fire ahead with it all the same. The other 3 teams just above them, Lansdowne, UCD, Garryowen, still haven't registered a point between them. A smattering of losing bonus points here, there between them. But there's very much a split in that group at the moment. Okay, it might be a little bit down to fixtures, but with 7 points already between 6th and 7th spot, are we looking at kind of 6 teams challenging at the top end of the table and 4 really just struggling for survival, or is it too early to kind of put that down to that just yet?
Well, if you look at last season, for example, I suppose UCC came last, Ballynahinch came 9th. I think UCD came 8th and Garryowen came 7th. And Garryowen had a good start to the season because of the way the fixtures were laid out. But then after that, they just kind of fell away. And it was kind of like that for the rest of the season. The 4 teams kind of struggled and didn't really match the top 6. Now, in saying that, I think Garryowen will struggle and Shannon will struggle. Lansdowne, you don't know. This block of fixtures is so important for them, massively important. It kind of determines the rest of their season, really. If they can get big wins, they've got Young Munster at the weekend away and they'll need to win that. Really, they have to the coach has to say to them, look, lads, don't come into this dressing room if you don't win. Because they need a win if they're serious about challenging for an AIL title this year. And then UCD is a strange one because I've watched UCD a little bit this year and I'm actually not, from what I've seen, they're not bad, They're actually really good in parts, really, really good. They just haven't really got that win yet. Against Trinity, they were beaten, but, there was lots of positives in the performance. Against Clontarf in round 1, there was plenty of positives in the performance. They were up at half-time against Young Munster, I think, as well at half-time. So, UCD, there's plenty of positives that I see, and I feel a bit bad for them because I actually think they should have more points than what they do at this point because, the performances have been good. But Gary Owen and Shannon, I do think will struggle a little bit. Ballynahinch, it's interesting. Like, they're doing well at the moment, but who knows? That's what I meant about the block of fixtures coming up. Like, if they don't win any of their next three, or it's hard to tell with them because they did really struggle last season. So it'll be interesting to see if they can keep it up.
Yeah, they've had a more favourable set of fixtures potentially. No disrespect to any of the teams they've played, but other than the game against Clontarf, they've had more winnable games against teams who would be around them traditionally in the table. And let's take a quick look at the league table as it stands at the moment. There, you see Ciaron York College at the top of the table, 1 point clear of Trinity and Clontarf. Bit of a gap back then to the group that we just talked about: Ballynahinch, Young Munster, and Cork Con, 10 points, and both of the others on 9. While the 4 winless sides so far: Lansdowne, UCD, Garryowen, and Shannon at the foot of the table. So plenty to keep them occupied over the next few days while they plot and plan to overcome that. Is that how you expect the season to kind of finish up, in these kind of groupings with the 3 or 4 top sides and then a middle tier and the teams at the bottom, Ciaron?
Yeah, I think there is going to be a bit of a gap, but Lansdowne, I think they will come back a little bit. I don't expect them to be that far down come the end of the season. And UCD as well. I know they finished 8th last season, but I think they look a better side than they did last season. I know that sounds silly. Like, you might be thinking, how can you say that when they're sitting in 8th currently? But I think they are improving, and I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of had better performances coming up. Yeah, it's interesting. I think the top 3 that are there will definitely be there come the end of the season. Ballynahinch, I'm not saying they won't be. I'm just saying I need more solid proof, that they're gonna.
You're gonna sit on the fence on that one just yet. Let's turn our attention to Division 1B for a moment, and some big games in the last round of games in terms of last results over there. For me, the one that stood out was probably Buccaneers' win over Highfield. It was a good performance from the team the whole way through. City of Armagh also a tight win over Old Wesley. But all the games at this level, 5 points, the maximum between any sides in the last round of games. And when you look down through the league table, there's only 7 points. We talked about a 7-point gap in one spot on the league table. 7 points from 1st to 9th in Division 1B. It seems to be super competitive.
No, that's what I say every week. I think that 1B is the most competitive division out of the 5. Like, it really is. And come the end of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if there's 3 points separating the team that are in 8th and the team that are in 5th, for example, or the team that are in 7th and the team that are in 4th. Like, so I think every single point counts. I know you say that for every competition, but for 1B, it really does. Like, if you can get a try bonus point win, or even a try bonus point and a losing bonus point, that's 2. Like, every point is really going to count, and all the teams are of a similar level. Like, it's 1B is like really, really entertaining. Like, I know everyone talks about 1A because it is the top league and it's the top tier essentially, but 1B is like really, really entertaining to watch. Like, I was lucky to be at Old Belvedere versus Naas a couple of weeks ago. Sean O'Brien making his Naas debut. I have my opinions on that, but I'm not going to get into that rant today. But
let's just to stop you there on that. Let's talk about that for a second, because Sean O'Brien, obviously a huge profile, brings in the world of media into the AIL, because I think every paper reported on the game, every media, every online outlet focused on Sean O'Brien's debut. He probably got more press attention for his debut for Naas than he did for any of his previous clubs. Is that not a positive for people to come back into the league and bringing that profile and that exposure back to a league that sometimes can struggle to get mainstream focus?
Yeah, from that standpoint, it is, like, because people were genuinely interested in the league again, because Sean was coming back, and it was kind of this like I was at the game, and you just got this feeling that everyone was kind of on edge, or like just waiting for him to come on, and there was this genuine excitement. But I just think like he got hurt and he only played 10 minutes, and I think from what I can make out, he's injured, like, and I don't know how much he'll be able to play, like, and I just think yeah, from a Energia AIL standpoint, it's good for them because it brings more attention to the game. But I don't know. I personally would have just let him play for Tullow. Like,
But that's a health and safety issue, surely, because there's lads my age and my frame playing, and my fitness level, which is not high, playing for junior clubs up and down the country. If you put him out at junior level, surely somebody who's not as experienced takes one hit from him, it could be curtains. It could be life changing.
yeah, but from seeing him play for an Ace, I think that his body is like Sean O'Brien made 56 caps for Ireland, I think, but he could have made way more if he wasn't so injury prone and he didn't get those injuries. I think he was a fantastic player that was very unlucky. If that makes sense, like he played for the Lions and he won European Player of the Year, I think in 2011 or 2012. Like he achieved a lot in his career, so to say he's unlucky is a strange one, but I actually think he could have achieved a lot more if he hadn't got injured. And just from seeing him play for an Ace, I just thought that his body, it's just hanging in there. Like, that I don't think you're going to get many games out of him. So I think 1 or 2 for Tullow would have been all right, like kind of a last hurrah. I just think for everything that he gave the game and everything that he achieved, that he should have been able, like, I don't know what his situation is now with the injury and when he's going to be back or if he's going to be back or any of that. But I just think when you get to his stage of your career, like he's done so much for the country, so much for his province, and he loves his home club, which I really, really admire. And I just think maybe they should have just given him 1 or 2 games for Tullow at the end, because I don't know. It's like I said, I don't know how many games they're going to get out of him anyway. And I do think that there's this kind of misconception sometimes of junior rugby, like especially in Leinster. I think Leinster League 1A and maybe the top 3 teams in 1B, they're well able for AIL. I genuinely actually believe that if those teams went up, they would do all right, and maybe 2C, they would do pretty good. So I do think, I get what people are saying about the health and safety thing, but I just think for Sean O'Brien, like he probably doesn't have much rugby games left in him. And I just think it would have been great for him just to go out in his own terms. Like maybe he'll get to play for Tullow in 2 years' time. And maybe he'll come back for an Ace and play really, really well. But it's just from my point of view, I think like he loves his club and he's a Tullow man. And like he's obviously happy to be playing for an Ace. But I just think that like if he wanted to play for Tullow, I think there should have been ways where they could have worked around it. Like you talk about what it's done for the AIL, but could you imagine what it would do for Tullow on a Sunday? Like a little local club. Like it's just I get why the decision was made, and I'm not saying that the wrong decision was made. I just think that I have a lot of respect for Sean O'Brien and what he's achieved in his career, and I think if he really wanted to go to Tullow, they should have maybe facilitated like whatever he wanted, because I think he does deserve it, and his body's been through a lot, and I just wouldn't like to see him get hurt more. That's all.
Fair enough. We'll leave the Sean O'Brien conversation at that point. But if we look at the league table in this group, there's plenty of talking points here. We talked about how tight this is, and if you take the top side out and the bottom side out, there's only 4 points, 1 win, less than a win, even if a bonus point, between Buccaneers in second place and Banbridge down there in ninth. And can we see those 8 teams really just fight through and see who's going to come out of that? Who would you expect to be the biggest challengers at the top of the table if we're going to put UCC up there as well?
Well, yeah, UCC coming down from 1A, like they look pretty good. They're undefeated in 1B, which isn't easy at all. Like I think Old Belvedere, if they can get some away form, they would actually be really good in 1B. I think it's the away form is where they really lack. Like they've got this guy in the centre at the minute, Jaden Pickett, from New Zealand, he's amazing. Like, he's a fantastic player. And then Cale Thatcher at number 8, another New Zealander. Like 2 brilliant new signings that I think if Belvedere can start winning their away games, I do think they could be near the top end of that table. Old Wesley, it's funny to see them near the bottom, because for the last few years they've been one of the leading teams in 1B, I suppose. But I think that was always a worry with them this season, with losing a couple of players and maybe missing their chance last year. So it's disappointing for them, but who knows, they can come back. Highfield, Keane Bohan in the centre is playing fantastic for them at the minute, scoring plenty of tries. They would have been a bit surprised losing to Bucks, I assume. Bucks kind of probably shocked a lot of people. Even I was a bit surprised when I seen that result. Eddie O'Sullivan, though, I've said it before, he is a top-class coach, and he did great things with Ireland when he was there. Like, we won numerous triple crowns, and we were always competing. So Eddie is a very, very good coach to get at this level. There's plenty of brilliant coaches at this level, but Eddie is a very good coach, and I do rate him highly. So, obviously he's doing great things in Bucks. But yeah, 1B's, it's really, I don't like to put predictions on 1B because literally anything can happen. Like, even City of Armagh, they're doing really well at the moment, and they're probably dark horses. Maybe people don't talk about them as much, but they actually play a really nice brand of rugby, and they could be challenging. And then you've got St. Mary's with Sean Cronin in there, former Irish international. He's dipping his toe into coaching this season. Who knows what he can do with them? 1B is just so exciting, and if I was to tell you what I think is going to happen there, I'd just be bluffing, to be honest. So
you'd be absolutely taking your chances. Let's maybe take a look at the women's AIL at the moment and look back at some of the results from last weekend. Cook and Wicklow, a big result there for Wicklow, I think, for them in terms of a 20 points to 10 win from behind. They were losing at halftime and they came back to win that by 10 points. We've talked about Wicklow a bit. We had Ella Roberts on the show a couple of weeks ago. That's a really positive move for Wicklow to kind of start seeing them competing. And now they're mid-table, the 13 points accumulated from the 5 games. That's a nice position for them to be in compared to where they were this time 12 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, those first 3 games, I'm from Wicklow, so I went to all 3 games. Or I didn't go to the 3rd game, I went to the first 2 games. But I remember they lost 140-0 to Railway Union, and then the first game they lost 63-0 to Old Belvedere, and then I think they got fairly badly beaten against Rock in the 3rd game. And I remember, there was whispers, people saying, maybe they shouldn't be at this level, but they just needed time, realistically. And then you look at who they were playing, in those first 3 games, it was the best of the best. They weren't playing against, teams that they're expected to do well against, And I think massive credit has to go to the coaches, because I know the amount of time and effort they've put in, like Jason Morton, Colin Younger, Mark Kinlan. They've all put in massive amounts of effort with the girls, and the girls have all put in massive amounts of efforts themselves. Even the likes of Ella and Vicky staying in Wicklow when they could have went to maybe the likes of Old Belvedere or Rock or Railway. It just shows, back to the Sean O'Brien thing, it just shows how committed they are to their local club and how much they love where they're from. And I think that's probably a really good reflection on Wicklow Rugby Club as a whole. The fact that the girls want to stay there and they feel so happy there is because of the environment that they've been kind of brought up in a rugby sense, if you know what I mean. They're happy there. They feel like it's their family. And I think, Wicklow Rugby Club, all the coaches involved, even from the presidents, committee members, they've really put in a lot of, good effort with regards to the women's team in recent years, and especially the youth system. They have probably the best girls' youth system in Leinster, and I think that's they're seeing the rewards of that now. And I think at the minute they're 5th best in Ireland if you're to look at the table. And if you had said that to them 12 months ago, I don't know if many people would have believed that. Maybe some of the girls would have, but maybe not many people that were going to the games would have. So, they deserve massive credit. From where they started to where they're going, it's amazing, really.
Yeah, top of the table clash then between Old Belvo and Blackrock. And I suppose the surprising thing here, Belvo probably would have gone in as favourites, leading 7-0 at half-time. Looked like they were going to continue their fine start of the season, but it wasn't to be. Blackrock beat them. And not even that, they beat them by 9, so no losing bonus point there as well. How important could that be as we get to the end of the season?
Yeah, well, I was actually at that game, and Belvo were probably, it was really a game of 2 halves, to be honest. Belvo were the better team in the first half, and then Rock kind of took off in the second half. Maeve Liston came on for Blackrock, and she made a massive difference when she came on, to be honest. She was really dangerous. She looked really good. But I don't know, because with the way the women's season is structured, it's all about qualifying for the competition after Christmas. So Belvedere will definitely be there, Railway will definitely be there, Rock will definitely be there. And it's just a case of who gets in that other spot. Will it be a Wicklow? Will it be a Galwegians? Will it be a UL? Last year it was UL, and they don't seem to be as good this year. So it'll be interesting to see who fits in that spot. But yeah, it was a very competitive game, very physical, like really physical. It was just really disappointing, to be honest, that it was on at the same time as the Leinster-Munster game, because that was the best game, or on paper, it was the best game in the women's AIL this season. Like the top two teams are, well, taking Railway out of that, but Blackrock and Belvo, because Railway haven't played them yet. But that was the best game on paper this season, and probably not many people were watching it, or not many people were there because Leinster and Munster was on down the road. So it was a bit disappointed for them in that regard, like, because that's what you want. You want more eyes to it. You want more fans to go to those sort of games, and it actually was really good, really physical, really intense. There was a real like edgy kind of vibe to it, where both coaching setups are kind of, they're a bit they're just a bit wound up, and there was that real kind of tense atmosphere. And actually, Dana O'Brien, who plays out half for Royal Belvedere, she made her first Ireland cap in the summer. She is fantastic. I was watching her, and some of the things she does, it's amazing. It was like watching Joey Carberry when he started out. He used to play. He'd always just look up, like he'd just play what's in front of him. And Dana O'Brien is very similar. Like she just goes for it. She just plays off instinct, which is really good to watch. I think she could be a fantastic player for Ireland in the years to come. She's really, really good to watch. Belvo have some really good young girls on the team. Then Rock have some excellent young girls. So it was really like it was a massive game. Ireland stars all over the park. Belvo better in the first half, Rock better in the second half. And to be fair, Rock just edged them in the end. I know it was 9 points, but it was probably closer than what that scoreline suggests. But brilliant game.
It does, of course, tighten everything up at the top of the table. There's the table as it stands at the moment, with Railway Union capitalising on that defeat for Belvo to jump to the top of the table. Of course, they have a game in hand as well, but only 1 point between those top three sides in the division at the moment. Galwegians and Wicklow back on 13 points, while at the lower end of the table, UL Bows, Suttonians, Ballincollig, and still without a point on the scoreboard is Cook at the moment. So they'll be hoping to do that. No games, of course, this weekend in the Women's League. We'll turn our attention to Division 2, A, B, and C of the Men's League. Not in action, of course, last weekend, but plenty of stuff. We start with the league table in Division 2A, and we just chat through some of the games in that division 2 weekends ago. Your thoughts here on the big games in that particular division, Ciaron?
Well, Queens are they're going like they were towards the end last season. They look like the best team in the league by a good bit, and they look really good again. They're playing Blackrock this weekend, so 1 versus 4. It'd be really interesting to see what happens there. I suppose the surprising one is UL in 10th. I don't think many people would have thought that was going to happen. 2A it's another division where it's very competitive, maybe not as competitive as 1B, but all those teams will I always say 2C, 2B, or 2B and 2A are kind of similar enough levels, so you never know who might get out of it. But yeah, Queens look very good, and at the moment you'd have to kind of put your money on them to be pushing to get to 1B next season.
Yeah, looking at the fixtures there in 2B, they're underneath you on the screen there. Some big games this weekend in 2B as well. Again, we've talked before about how this division is so tight. For me, of course, the All-Connacht clash, Galwegians and Sligo, is probably the clash of the weekend. But I think others might be looking elsewhere in terms of the actual, I won't say the quality because I'll get shot for that, but in terms of the actual top end of the table, where will your eyes be in this particular division this week?
I think you have a bit of Connacht bias there. I think
100%. Well, you're Wicklow bias for Greystones Belfast as well.
Yeah, no, true. But I think it has to be 1 versus 2, Greystones versus Belfast Harlequins. Both unbeaten, both looking very good. It's going to be a really good game. I think I'm just disappointed I won't get to go to it. Like it should be really good. I went to their game last year in Dr. Hickey Park, and Belfast Harlequins actually came out and topped that day. So it'll be a really interesting game. Greystones have kind of started the season how I would have expected them to. They always kind of start out they come out of the traps quickly most seasons, and they kind of lead from the front, and that's kind of what they're doing this season. They're a very good team, got some great players in the squad, and then you've got Belfast Harlequins who made it to the top 4 last season, and I actually reckon they would have been dark horses to get up, but they lost in the semi-final. I think they lost to Blackrock or either Greystones in the semi-final. But I did say to Luke at the start of the season that I thought Belfast Harlequins and Wanderers was another team I picked to be kind of dark horses to get into that mix. But I think that's a really entertaining game, and I'd encourage anyone if they're around the Greystones area to get down and watch that one, because I think it'll be really close, and I think whoever wins that game keeps their 100% record and kind of takes top for themselves. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens there.
Guaranteed either be a draw or called off now at this stage after that intro you've given to it. Look at the fixtures or the league table in 2B very quickly, as you can just see. We're us chatting about there. That tie, Greystones and Belfast Harlequins, probably the tie of the round if we're being honest about it. And put a bit of daylight between them and third place as well, which will be quite important if on offer for one of those sides at the weekend. If we take a look now at Division 2C, games there, Skerries beating Bruff, Tullamore beating Clonmel, Estonians away to Bangor, and Middleton winning over Omagh, and Sunday as well with a good win against Ballina. We talked about Ballina as disappointing start to the season. 3 games in, they're 1 point up. They've only to come down from 2B. They're in a bit of a free fall at the moment. Can they stop themselves sliding out of senior football?
Senior rugby. I think you're thinking of the football podcast there. But
same thing. It's rugby football, Ciaron. It's rugby football.
Yeah. But no, I think Ballina could be in trouble. They don't want to become a junior club, because that is a massive thing, both financially and just for club status. Like every club would prefer to be a senior club. That's it's just the way it is. But for Ballina being in 2B last season, they'll be a bit disappointed that they're kind of just slipping. And I suppose that kind of proves as well. Like you've got 2 ends of the scale here. You've got Ballina, who came down from 2B, who on paper should be doing well in 2C, and then you've got somebody like Estonians who came from junior rugby and on paper shouldn't be doing that good, but they're top of the table, haven't lost a game. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about junior clubs can actually do pretty well in 2C, 2B. It's just about getting there in the first place. Like you've got Ballina, who've been in 2B for the last couple of seasons, and now they look in trouble, like in this early stage of going down to junior rugby. And then you've got a team like Estonians who look unreal at the minute and look like they're really eyeing up that 2B promotion. So it kind of goes back to this junior rugby, senior rugby debate, and I don't want to keep going on about it, but I do think that Estonians probably will go up, and it just shows that the gap isn't that big between the top junior leagues and, like, say 2C, 2B, AIL. But yeah, Tullamore are another really good team in 2C at the minute. I think they could do really well. Skerries are always thereabouts. I know some of the results haven't went their way so far, but they'll definitely be thereabouts. Bangor, I think, they are always kind of near that top end of the table. But yeah, 2C is another interesting league. But Estonians deserve maximum credit, in my opinion, coming from where they've come from and to be dominating 2C so far. It's really impressive.
Let's take a quick look at the league table there. As you mentioned, the Estonians top of the table. They're recently promoted from the junior grade, so they're delighted with how their season is panning out so far. Really healthy points difference as well there. 108 points after 3 games is very consistently impressive. At the bottom of the table, as we mentioned, Ballina down from 2B last year, and they're just in free fall at the moment. They'll need to try and arrest that, but unfortunately they meet each other this weekend. Home advantage might be enough. A win over the top side of the table could be enough to get Ballina kick-started and maybe back up that table over the next few weeks. Some mouth-watering ties across all divisions in the league this year. This weekend, should I say. You're going to be, where are you going to be yourself, Ciaron?
I'm lucky enough I'm going to be at Trinity Ballynahinch this weekend, so that should be a really good game. I'm really looking forward to going to that one because I haven't seen either team live this year. I'm trying to spread myself equally across 1A at the moment to make sure that I see all teams, not just certain ones. So I'm trying to spread myself equally to make sure that I see, all the teams, but also I watch all the videos, because I'm just obsessed with the AIL, to be honest. So I spend the nights watching videos and reading reports and just keeping up to date. But on the AIL so far, just to get 15 points in your first 3 games, that's the best you can do. And only two teams have done it so far. I think it's Terranure in 1A and then Instonians in 2C. I think Queens they're on 14, are they, in 2A? So that's really hard, to get 5 points from every single one of your games so far. So Terranure and Instonians deserve a lot of credit for that brilliant start, and massive credit has to go to their coaches. It's not easy. AIL is very, very competitive, and to start your season like that is a massive plus.
Absolutely. Well, listen, of course, we will have live updates of all of those games on our website on finalwhistle.ie. If you click on the rugby and the live games, you'll have it all on Saturday afternoon. A full round of fixtures, all 25 games, live updates on our site, and you can get them there. Look forward to chatting to you again next week. Ciaron, thanks very much for joining me.
No bother. It's great to be here.